The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show. Tonight, our guest you've seen as a character of Nikolas Cassadine on General Hospital, Josh Kantos in the hit STARZ TV series Power, and he's guest starred on several shows such as CSI New York and the NCIS franchise series, and we're so happy he's with us tonight. Please welcome actor, producer, and writer Adam Huss to the show. Thank you, Adam, for being with us tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We're so happy to have you with us, Adam. And, I know before we started recording, we talked about you being from Long Island. And being from Long Island, you're so close to Manhattan. So growing up, did you go to Manhattan and see a lot of Broadway shows?
My parents were very scared of me going into the city, and they weren't big city goers. So unfortunately, no. But with high school field trips, sometimes we'd go and see things. I think one of the first shows I saw was like Starlight Express. Yeah. So that was the 80s probably, right? Or something. Yeah. So I guess that was like junior high. I don't even know. But like the beginning of junior high, I think we went to go see that. So that was my first exposure to a Broadway show. And of course I loved it. There was a lot of theater on Long Island. So I got to see those, I got to see that. Right. But yeah, it wasn't until I got older and started taking the train in on my own that I really got exposed to a lot of theater. And my friend Steven Domina, he worked for a small off-Broadway theater that did just really great plays, MCC theater. And I saw really cool stuff. Like I think I saw Bug with Anna Paquin and little plays, that really blew my mind, because I only thought of Broadway. And then all of a sudden I saw these off-Broadway little shows with just such great actors and such great storytelling and great writing. And I was like, this is what I want to do,
Well, is that when you got the bug to act? I mean, when seeing those off-Broadway shows, because I've seen off-Broadway shows too, and they're very inspiring. And I think the nice thing about it is the intimacy of it. You're not in a big, huge crowd. I mean, you can actually see the expressions of the actors' faces and really get into the actual characters. So was that it for you?
Well, for sure. Like my love of this started when I was a kid. I mean, I loved escaping into, whether it was, maybe first the cartoon world, and then like Saved by the Bell, like Saturday morning shows. And then I started watching, scripted shows, and then movies were a huge part of my life. Like, I mean, huge since I was a kid. I could recall each VHS tape and what 3 movies were on each one. Cause if you remember, we would record, like, there was enough space to record 3 movies. Yeah. And it's really unreal, right? Like what we did not have access to and what we had to do to get them. But the movies like the Goonies and Ghostbusters and Gremlins, like all those movies, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Star Wars, they all shaped me. All the quintessential 80s films, like I wanted to do that. I'm like, that's what I want to do. And of course, like your parents never go, yeah, you could do that. Go ahead. They're always like, get an education. This is what this is real life. But my imagination just ran away with me, and when I got into, high school, we started being exposed to like, there was a class we did some theater work in that class, and reading like Dracula and all these interesting old movies. And everyone would be like, wow, you've got a natural thing. Like, it's really your thing. And I'm like, yeah, no, I love it. And I make movies with I have a really big family. So I'd make movies with my cousins, and I'd come up with scripts and pass them out. And then I started like, why don't I audition for the plays? And there was only musicals, and I did sing, but it wasn't like my main thing, but I did sing. So I started, auditioning for these musicals. And then by junior year, I got a lead part, and then senior year, I was the lead. So that was the real bug that bit me. But then I think it was those off-Broadway plays, because I went to college and I did study theater, and I had a teacher from Juilliard there who got kicked out of Juilliard and was teaching me in college. Gene Lesser was his name. And he really taught me what acting was, like a serious approach to acting and building a technique. And
Right.
And then seeing those off-Broadway plays when I'd come home for the summer or whatever, and seeing, right, that smaller intimacy, like I saw like Jesus Hop the A Train, like to see that, and the performance in that, and actually know that actor now through a friend of mine who's a manager here, but just to watch that, yeah, it was so raw. And again, like you said, you're sitting right there and you see it, and it's not that you're 20 rows back, or you're playing to this large audience, you're playing right here. So that really, I think that was my forte. That was like when I went, ooh, I can do this. I want to do this. And now I just need to figure out the tools to get there. And it's when my teacher, that teacher from Juilliard, I got the opportunity of having the expertise of, because he got kicked out of Juilliard and was teaching in Binghamton, where I went to school.
Yeah.
He one day said to me, I was in a fraternity and doing all that stuff. And he was like, he'd actually show up at these parties. So he's like, Adam, how come I haven't seen you at these body and movement courses? And I was like, what body and movement courses? He's like, we're giving these free courses to try to get a body and movement, like, body movement classes in here. And I was like, oh, I didn't know about them. I really didn't. And he's like, okay. And he starts walking away and he turns back and he goes, Adam, what parties are going on this weekend? I want to join you guys. And I was like, oh, we got this one. We got this, and Friday and Saturday. He's like, you know about those though.
Right.
I was like,
the body movement classes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that honestly,
it hit you.
Because it shifted me completely. And I went, this isn't a game. Like it's fun. Acting is fun and all that stuff. And I don't want to ever lose that. But like, if I want to do this, I need to play in the big leagues. I need to learn what I'm doing the right way. And that's when it all shifted. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of, we're talking about like the smaller stages and everything like that. When you first got on a stage, and whatever it was, high school or whenever you got into musicals, I mean, talk about that experience when you first stepped on the stage for the first time, because everybody seems to have different, reactions. But what was your reaction when you first stepped on that stage with an actual audience in front of you?
Yeah, I think at first, 10th grade, I think it was, I was scared and I was insecure and I was, afraid of being called names. And I was called names, even though like I didn't really play sports. I was teased and I didn't know what they were saying, because I had a very different journey of like, I am out now and married to a man, but like my journey was very different. I didn't know that I was straight out gay. Like I wouldn't know then to call it like somewhere in the middle, but like, sure. But I didn't know that. And I just thought, no, I'm not. What are these kids calling me? So I was very afraid of the theater world, because when you're in the theater world, that confirms you're gay and, to bullies and such. So I was very afraid, but I knew I loved it so much. And I think the first show I did was Annie or Anything Goes. I can't remember right now. I'm flip-flopping, but I loved it. It was so much fun. And I wanted a bigger part. I wanted to learn how to tap dance and jump in and do it all. And then when I got by Birdie senior year, I didn't even play Birdie. I played Albert Peterson. And that was when I was like, this is amazing. I got to, again, I learned how to tap dance and sing and do all these things. And I remember my mom and dad were just kind of like, what is this? My mom's like, I'll come help. We'll come see the show one night. And I'm like, well, it's going to run all these nights. So you want to come? And they came and they were so blown away that my mom volunteered to do the makeup and hair to help, because she wanted to see me every week. And that was really inspiring for me to go, awesome. Whoa, my mom's behind this too, Yeah. So I knew then, like, not only do I love this, but like people are seeing something in me,
Yeah,
that
sure.
I didn't even know was fully there. And of course I had to like make better.
well, and speaking of the theater world, and one of the things that I've experienced with my kids being in regional theater and community theater is the acceptance of the theater. Everybody is accepted in the theater, and it seemed like, obviously there's like anything else, politics that goes on, but I mean, just the acceptance of everybody that wants to do it. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, and what you might get bullied in school, but you're always accepted in the theater. That was always my experience. Was that the same with you?
100%. Yeah. I mean, again, there's competition in the theater too, but you're right. There's just like, it's where the outcast kid goes to express themselves, and there's no judgment, besides like the competition wise, there's no judgment on who you are. And I was exposed to an early age, and especially in Long Island, which it's very close to the city, but it's an island, and it is truly an island. I was not exposed to really LGBTQ plus people. My uncle was, but it was like, he kind of had a lot of issues, and we were told really bad things about him. So to see, or, people who maybe weren't out at that time, but like, you could tell maybe they might be out later in life. Yeah. I felt really embraced. And especially in college, that was where I really saw people from all different walks of life. And I'm like, this is beautiful, because I don't have a judgment on these people, even though my parents, and they're amazing now, but had that fear and everything else then, and imparted it onto me. I was able to, I knew that wasn't right. And so I was really able to make my own, way, and my own, judgment of people, and find myself there too,
Right.
And again, like, not knowing what I was, and it wasn't so cut and dry for me, as it was for some people, but I knew whatever I was, and if I was different, I belonged here too,
Yeah.
And when I was in the fraternity, even my fraternity brothers started coming to shows, and they would be like, this is so cool, and granted, they didn't have the theater decorum or whatever, but they would like scream my name in the shows. And my teacher yelled at me like, whoever invited those frat people, tell them how to behave in theater. But that, like, it melded those worlds together.
Right.
People, and even my fraternity brothers, I remember when I pledged, they were all like my class. They were very like, oh, great, this guy's going to come here. He's weirdo. He like watches 90210 with all the girls. He's in theater. And we grew to love each other.
Yeah.
Just based on who we were as people. And that was my first exposure to different, like different bully, like jocks, good looking guy, whatever the hell they are, and all of us coming together and being one. And then they came to my shows and got to know my theater people, especially at parties and stuff. And they were just, it was like a taste of sort of what, LA or a bigger city is now,
It should be like everywhere. Right.
Yes.
That's an incredible story. And I'm glad you told that story, because, like I said, a lot of our listeners are new artists, and, and I know that, life itself can be awkward sometimes, and especially in the arts. So, I'm so glad that you brought that up. That's a great story, Adam. One of the things I want to add, kind of bring up, Adam, is obviously recently the strike just ended. It was a historic strike that lasted a very long time, with the actors, and also the, SAG-AFTRA, and also with, the writers, for a time. So as an actor, what are your thoughts? Because obviously it was a long strike, and it's just the whole, how did that affect, do you think, the entertainment business as a whole? Because I mean, obviously it's everybody's, satisfied now with the outcome and so forth, but that was a long time you guys were on strike. So how do you think that affected, the future of the entertainment industry, in your opinion?
The future. Yeah. I mean, first of all, it was a rough time. It was, we just come out, we're just getting our footing from a pandemic, and it felt again like a mirror of that in this town, because it was again like 2023 is my year, and like, no, it ain't, because everything is coming to a halt. And even though insiders knew about, we didn't know. And we had a movie that I wrote, because I've just started really, my writing is starting to take off in a way of like, where I'm coming into my own with my writing. I don't have an agent yet and all that for it, but I am gonna. I just wrote my third full feature script, so I'm gonna start pursuing that, but pursuing reps. But I just wrote this project, and it had interest from this Broadway producer named Hunter Arnold, who produces like every show you can think of in Broadway with his company. He was very interested in doing this movie because it was like it was sort of like a Pretty in Pink meets Scott Pilgrim, outcast kid who's a comic book artist, falls in love with the jock, and like 20% of the movie's animated through his eyes. So cool. That was really, and we got the tax incentive for California, and that was gearing up to go. And we were on track to get all these things in place. And then the strike hit. Yeah. And so not only did it ground the movie, but it scared people. It scared, people into going like, let's wait for this. And nothing's dead, but it was like everything you had planned torpedoed. And we knew we were fighting for the right thing, AI and residuals. It had to be done. I mean, I don't think the contract, or we haven't had a race since like 1984 or not. Maybe I'm wrong by that, but somewhere in there, some ridiculous thing.
Time, right?
So of course it had to be done. And let me tell you, as someone who was on a show that only had 8 episodes per season, you don't make the same living you did. Like if I was on 3 seasons of a show that was on ABC or something back in the day, I would have been probably bought a house,
right?
And it wasn't the case. And then your residuals drop and the pay is low. So we needed to have this fight. And, I hope in the long run, what we got residual wise will help, especially with streaming. I think it will. And that's why we ratify the contract, but it is scary with the AI stuff because it is the wild, wild west. And those warnings you hear, on this current contract, it's scary. I think we voted yes because we knew we got the best we could right now.
Yeah.
And we need to get back to work, but I don't know. Thank God there's another negotiation in 3 years. So if as AI is only going to get more, prominent in 3 years, maybe then we have to strike again. I don't know, but I think it was the right thing to say yes, to ratify it. And I do hope that, the positive changes come and everyone is paid what they're worth. And I think if anything, it showed the studios that we're not willing to just be a peon waiting on your beck and call. And like, you guys get to hoard all the money, that is the thing is like actors, unless you're in that tier of Brad Pitt and Viola Davis, you are a blue collar guy, especially these days, or a girl, a woman. And it's a real wake up call, from your pipe dream of like, I'm going to go do this thing. And then that's my dream. And you get these bits and pieces, but because of what this business has been watered down to, you're a gig worker, which people kept saying during the strike, and that it's tough, man. It's a sobering reality. And I'm not saying that as a negativity or to give up your dream, because it's also amazing when you get to do it, and dreams can happen here and like that. But it takes a lot of work and a lot of hats. And you just have to know that going in now, like we are producers, we are writers, we are actors. And I used to just think I'm an actor only, now I'm like, no, I'm going to do it all until, that thing hits and we start getting up off the ground and more so,
Hey, it's Dave from the Stage Door Show. Have you ever wanted a digital business card that would speak for you? Well, let me introduce you to TalkingVCard. Imagine this, a business card that doesn't just sit in somebody's wallet, but actively introduces you, shares your latest work, or even a special message. That's what TalkingVCard is all about. It's modern, environmentally friendly, and has been an absolute game changer for networking in this digital age. Now here's the most exciting part. For a limited time, you can get lifetime ownership of your very own TalkingVCard for only $99. Plus, to ensure you're maximizing its potential, they're offering a free consultation to help supercharge your brand. As many of you know, TalkingVCard is a proud VIP sponsor of our show, and I've been using it personally. The feedback has been absolutely amazing. For everyone tuned in right now, if you're looking to make a lasting impression and elevate your brand, I genuinely recommend giving TalkingVCard a try. There's a unique link on our show notes that'll take you straight there. And remember, maybe the next voice somebody hears from a digital card will be yours. Stay creative and stay connected. TalkingVCard. Adam, speaking of that, from your experience that you've had with everything you've been on, which has been several movies, TV shows, stages and so forth. What is your advice to somebody just getting started out, from your own experience, or maybe something you wish you would have done differently, or what kind of advice can you give somebody?
Someone starting out, I would say, definitely first and foremost, right? Know your craft. That's like a given. I came here, no matter what, you're going to go into this business a little green, because no matter what you read or someone tells you, it cannot really prepare you for, what you actually experience. You just can't. And it takes that experience and the failings and the ups and downs to really grow. And I think when I moved here, this teacher that I was using a lot in the beginning when I first moved here, she said, don't listen to anybody. Like, take advice. And if it's feels right in your heart, yeah. But if not, don't. Like, make your own way. If someone tells you, you have to do this, and this is the way it's going to be, that maybe for them, but you got to be, no matter what, you have to be yourself through the journey, and bring yourself to everything. Like, you bring yourself to your work, you got to bring yourself to this journey, and as you approach it, if that makes sense. It's not one way for everybody.
Yeah.
And I would say, really work. Like, one of the things that my teacher, Gene Lesser, taught me in college was, like, if you have issues, go to therapy. If you have, stuff you need to work on, work that stuff out, because you're going to bring it into the rooms, onto the stage, into when you're shooting, and you can't, you have to know that stuff. You have to, and I'm a work in progress still. You have to, like, have that stuff at bay so you can do your work, and so you don't get beat down by the rejection, because there's a lot of rejection, a lot of no, and you could take a lot of it personally. And I have, and I still fight to stay every day, like, on even keel through this business, because, again, there's a lot of rejection and a lot of, and especially with social media, seeing what you think everyone else is doing. Don't buy into that. You're just, I just feel like as long as you're working hard and whatever it is you want to do, and you can really cultivate other parts of being an artist, as in, maybe it is writing, maybe it is producing, maybe it's both, maybe it's all three, maybe it's making your own one-woman show, or making videos on, TikTok or Instagram that are actually funny and showing you do characters. I see that stuff and I think it's great. I don't do that necessarily, but I think it's great that people can. But I think no matter what, you have to really be willing to come at this in many different ways, and not just think this is one thing. People do get it. Timothée Chalamet was a lucky guy, but he's also very talented in all those things. But not everyone's path is Timothée Chalamet. But you could still be a working actor and making money and producing and all that stuff by just, being willing to do what it takes to get there.
Well, that's great advice. I'm also glad that you brought up the fact that, go see a therapist if you need to. And, it's one thing we talk about on this show a lot. I'm also a work in progress, and I'm proud to say that I've seen, therapists several years, and it's helped me as a person. And, I think it's hard for men mostly to admit, I guess, that they need to go see somebody. And my friend who I grew up with, Mark Meyer, he started a foundation called Face It Foundation for men to do it without feeling stigma, I guess. And his foundation has been great. But again, anybody who needs help on, listening to the show, reach out to me. I have a lot of resources, and if you need to go see help, I'm more than happy to help you with that.
Yeah. I mean, mental health is so important. It always has been, but nowadays, thank God, people see it in a different light.
Yes.
But I remember when my teacher said that, like, he was making us, this can sound ridiculous, but he was making us wear leotards to our Shakespeare class, because he wanted, if you were out of shape, if you were whatever, and that's okay. But if he wanted you to feel comfortable, if you had an issue in this leotard, then go to the gym and figure it out. Feel comfortable
right.
in your body, or figure out why you're not, or figure out how you can, you know what I mean? And that was like part of, to me, that made a lot of sense, because I always had body issues growing up. I was a heavier kid, and I wanted to look a certain way. And that really, you know, helped me get wrap my head around that. Like, what does it, where, you know, if I need to change that to feel better about myself, if exercise is going to make me feel better, that's part of my well-being too. But then I needed to work on all the stuff up here, because like I grew up I love my dad, but he's old fashioned, you know, and if you mention therapy, he's like, why would you need that? What's wrong with you? You know? And my mother, she wants to like know more. And over the years, she's opened up more, because she wants to, you know, who doesn't want to get this stuff out of our heads, you know?
Right.
Because all of us, even people who have, even I've gone to therapy for many years, but I still get caught in my head and thinking I'm going to find the answer just up there, when really the answer is in your heart, you know, and all this old stuff doesn't necessarily have it. You have the wisdom, but you can't work out of the problem sometimes, you know. You got to have that sounding board, or just to get it out to someone who does have the tools. And another thing I want to quickly say is, if you can't afford it, because a lot of people might hear this and go, oh, I don't have the money. And I don't always have the money either. And so I have a therapist that thankfully has been with me for years and years and years. She married my husband and I, actually, because she's like become a life coach. And she gives me a deal, which I'm so grateful for. It's still high, and she doesn't take insurance, but she's amazing. So sometimes I have to, you know, not go to her for a couple of weeks or months and then pop back in. But what I wanted to say was, a great resource is this 12 step. And you don't have to be an alcoholic to go to 12 step. And I'm not an alcoholic, but I go to Codependence Anonymous. Sure. And, you know, I'm not anonymous anymore by saying that, but I don't mind saying it, because there's Al-Anon, there's CODA, there's, you know, Overeaters Anonymous. There's many different 12-step programs. And that has also been such a resource for me. Yeah. And hearing other people wanting to get better, wanting to better themselves. What a gift. And by the way, it's so synonymous with the work we do, because then I can go to work and not be a people pleaser, and not take that person's comment personal, or that reject, or that person not looking at me, and stay focused and do my scene, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, that's so well said. You know, that's one thing I'm so glad to talk about this when it comes up on my show. And like you said, there's resources out there. Like I said to our listeners, you know, and when I went to a therapist, I went to a school where the doctors were all learning, so they were still in school. So you could usually find, you know, less expensive, you know, therapy that way too. And there's one right in New York City on 72nd. Like I said, if you reach out to me, I will more than happy point you in the right direction there. So again, thank you for bringing that up, Adam. I can't thank you enough for that.
You're welcome. That's so cool of you.
Yeah, no, I again, you know, anything we can do to help people. The one thing I want to kind of end with here is, well, actually, before we do that, I understand that you have a production company called Molecule Productions, and
yes,
you have some projects that you're working on with that. I thought they were really cool. So can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Molecule Productions is my husband and I. It's our company. And Barista once told us, when she got our names for the Starbucks drink, that two atoms make a molecule, which we knew. But of course, we're like, wait a minute, that's so awesome. That's so clever, you know? So we became Molecule Productions. And our goal really is we want to be able to change those molecules in a room by the content we put out. So it's, and still entertain and have fun and have all that great nostalgia feeling of all those movies I grew up with that I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, but also have for the, you know, for 2023, 2024, like the messages about inclusion and equality. So that's it. Right now, that's in a lot of our films. We have a horror film called Let It Kill You, which is, it's a elevated werewolf film, and there is a love story at its core that is a same-sex love story, but it's using the werewolf myth as a metaphor for transformation and you know, sexual transformation, whether it be self-transformation, self-acceptance. I always saw the werewolf as a creature that was like felt bad for what it was, and I of course found so much, to relate to in that myth. And so as a kid, so this movie we wrote, and now we've had like little we've had little pieces of it come out. Like we've shot like proof of concepts and shorts that have done really well, and now it's at WME, and we're trying to get it made into a feature film.
Cool.
So there's that movie. Yeah. And then there's the movie I mentioned, Original True, which is a coming of age high school movie that's Pretty in Pink meets Scott Pilgrim. And imagine instead of Molly Ringwald and Andrew McCarthy, it's like, Jacob Elordi and Jack Dylan Grazer, so it's like two guys falling in love and from this different world, and 20% of the movie is animated. And then the third movie is a horror film called The Seizing. And we love horror and we love that genre. It's so much fun. And it's kind of loosely based on something that happened to us while we were filming a short. But we wanted to make a one location, like almost like it feels like a pandemic, but it's not. It's something else. And we wanted to really explore what it feels like to be trapped in a cabin and claustrophobic. And it still deals with conspiracy theories, like, all the stuff we see on the news, what's really happening? What are people buying into? Is this really happening, or are people just nuts in this town? And I won't reveal that, but that's another movie we're cultivating. So a couple of them have legs, and we got the California incentive for the coming of age movie. And in the new year, we're going to go back into trying to get that off the ground. And then the horror movie too might be shooting in April. So I say might because you never know until it's actually happening. We've had a million and one fake promises, but
until you turn the camera on, right?
But this stuff's feeling good, and the people we're working with are really awesome and seem to be into it. So we're excited. And again, that came out of like, I never thought I'd be a producer, but it was like, hey, I can make my own stuff. And they tell you go make your own stuff, but it's tough. It's tough to make your own stuff and have it make it look well. And you want your stuff to look good because that's your calling card. So even when the short films we made, which you can check a bunch of them out on our YouTube channel or my website, adamhussofficial.com, has Molecule Productions, and there's a bunch of the shorts there. We feel like no matter what, the quality is top notch, because that's our calling card. So it's like, hey, we did this for $5,000, then we did this for $15,000, this for $20,000. Imagine what we can do with, $500,000 or $1 million,
Well, that just goes to show our listeners that, if you have an idea, I think a lot of people don't realize it, their ideas, because they think that they don't have enough money or resources. And I just tell them, just go do it. That's what I did. Just go do it, make it, however you can, make it the best you can. And then, as you go on, you'll get better and better and better. So just, keep that in mind. Just do it. If you have it, don't take it to the grave with you. If you have an idea, make it. Before we go, Adam, I ask this of everybody, but what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to leave behind when people think of Adam Huss?
Oh, wow. That's what you're ending with. That's a big one. My Lord. I think of I'll just think of like my idols in this business, because we're talking about the business, right? So it's like, I think of like even like Brad Pitt. I loved him growing up. Yeah, he's handsome as hell. That was like the appeal, but I loved something about him and the way he didn't want to just be known for being a pretty boy, but there was all this stuff. He really worked hard to like make a name for himself as an actor. And then all the good that he gets to do in the world because of his status, and he still remains private, and he still remains humble, and that and kind. That to me is so important in any legacy. Like I've been on set with all kinds of people and all different levels, and I don't think there's ever a reason to be cold or rude or better than, or think that you're everything, And I think we're all the same level, really. And it feels nice when you're working and you definitely feel like, oh, wow, I'm here and thank God I'm not there. But guess what? You could be there in a heartbeat. So for me, as long as I can remain, people can say that I was kind, humble, on the way up, on the way down, whatever way they experience me, and that I could give back, and the last thing I'll say is because I can talk a lot, as you can tell here, my big thing is I love, love, love giving it back to people, knowing how tough my road was and still is. If I get to this place where I can really give back to people, I want to give people those opportunities, because in this business, it's so easy. And I realize also when you're busy and you're into stuff, you can't help everybody. You got to be healthy, right? But have a healthy mindset about it. But I would love to give people the opportunities and not the same people. Like I have so many friends that are so talented and they can't break through. And I'm like, oh, I just can't wait till and I try even with my auditions for little things or shorts to give them breaks. I really believe it's important as a community and as a creative community that we like try to open this up to other people that aren't just in the sphere of the A-listers,
Yeah.
So, yeah,
that's a great legacy, Adam. And again, I get different answers and I love that answer. I mean, just to be a good person and what you said, it really hit home to me too, where you said, if you're down here, you could be down there in a heartbeat, but in reverse, that person down here could be up there, could be a lead actor at some point, and that's what we hope for is the people that want to be there, can get there, but they do it the right way. And that, like I said, that was so well said, and that legacy, because that's exactly the way we teach, our listeners to do it that way, to do it the right way, do it with being humble and, doing it with being kind to people on set, no matter who it is, everybody's level, everybody just has a different job to do. And if that person does it right, if they're not the lead actor, if they don't do their job right, they could ruin the whole production.
Yeah, I love meeting like the crew and I think Michael and I met because he had a smaller part on the movie that I was in, the Lifetime movie that I was the lead of. And I loved it. He was so kind and sweet and wonderful. And he's kept in touch with me, whether it be social media and just commenting on the nicest things. And I'm like, just because I don't look at anyone, like I don't put my nose up to anyone where I can't talk to them. Unless I have to focus on a scene and then I politely ask. I heard that actually from Jake Gyllenhaal once, where he said he saw they were doing Prisoners, him and Hugh Jackman. And real quick, I'll just say that he saw Hugh being so nice to everyone, and Jake Gyllenhaal can be very serious, methody. Yeah. And he was like, "How can you just be so nice to everyone? Like you're getting everyone. You come in, you're getting the hair makeup and the hair person, and the sound guy, and then all the stuff, and you can't focus." And he's like, "Well, I can, and when it's time to focus, then I come in and I let them know, hey, the Hugh you got the last couple of days, you might not get the same guy. I have to focus. Please don't take offense and be quiet these next couple of days." It's like, all you got to do is communicate what you need. Right. And then people respect and love you back, and don't think, God, or feel like a piece of shit. Because at the end of the day, I love this with all my heart and soul. Producing, writing, acting, I love it. I'm so, so, so passionate about it. But there are a million other things going on in this world. And like, we have to be cognizant of this. We are not, yes, everyone loves movies and TV and it's special to be part of it all. But like, this is not the be and end all. So It's your career. You can make it this beautiful, special thing and put all that love and passion into it. And remember, the world keeps spinning, turning and spinning. And there's other things going on and people are feeling stuff and people are going through stuff. And so I just like to make sure there's an equal balance of that.
Try to stay grounded, right? And kind of take everything into perspective. I think that's a great way to think. And, Adam, I can't thank you enough for being with us tonight on the show. It was a great conversation. And
so honored.
Yeah, come on my show anytime you want. And
thank you.
Just a pleasure and an honor to have you on. So thank you so much for being on, and also much success to you in your future.
I really appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me. I'll come back anytime. Happy holidays.